the class. So we can start with the Jai Radha Madhav.
What is the verse for today? Can you 13 to 39?
Because we are Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you. So we'll quickly recite prayers before starting the class. Please recite after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshva Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtite. Okay, so thank you devotees for joining. Before starting the class, I seek all of your blessings. Amazing teachers are present here. Prem Sindhu Prabhu, Radhika Kishori Mataji, all the residing devotees of the temple, Alankar Prabhu. So yeah, please bless me that I can serve this class. And this is for my own purity. Whatever I speak today is not my creation. It is all the words of Acharyas, just for the pleasure of Lordship. I just try to serve this class. Okay, so we are going to discuss the last 5 verses of Canto 2, Chapter 1. So before starting to discuss in detail those last 5 verses, I would like to give a quick summary of Canto 2, Chapter 1 about all the verses. So the name of Canto 2 is Cosmic Manifestation, and Chapter 1 name is First Step in God Realization. So in Canto 1, in the last chapter, Parikshit Maharaj had asked 2 questions. The first question was, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances? And second question was, what is the specific duty of one who is going to die very shortly? So then in the second canto, Sri Sukdev Goswami in the beginning starts by congratulating Parikshit Maharaj for such glorious question, because they will benefit everyone. And further, Sri Sukdev Goswami Maharaj answers by explaining the superiority of bhakti. So in verse 2 to 4, he discusses about Grihamedi life, so that one can understand what not to be heard, what not to be remembered. So example, we should not be involved much in talking about the mundane topics of the material world all the time, and not have faith in fallible soldiers. So things like that we should try to avoid. Then later in verse 5 to 11, he discusses in detail about the glories of Bhakti Yoga. So by describing about the activities of Bhakti life, like chanting, hearing about glories of Lord, remembering Lord, these are the most worthy things to be done. Even Gyanis, Karmis or Yogis can achieve perfection only by the path of Bhakti. So Harinam Sankirtan is the best remedy. And in the second section of this chapter 1, further from verse 12 to 14, here Sri Sukdev Goswami discusses about the quality of life that matters, not the quantity. So he inspires Parikshit Maharaj by mentioning about Katvanga Maharaj, who had only one muhurta, that is only 48 minutes to perfect his life, and still he was able to do that. So he was saying that Parikshit Maharaj, you have 7 days compared to that. So Parikshit Maharaj was convinced by this, and he was also convinced by the explanation of the bhakti process to achieve perfection. So further in the section 3 from verse 15 to 39, Sri Sukdev Goswami discusses about Astanga Yoga for attaining liberation. He discusses this topic because there were some Astanga yogis also present in that meeting where Parikshit Maharaj was there. So then from 16 to 19, he explains about different stages of Astanga Yoga, like Yam, Niyam, Pranayam, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, etc. So when further Parikshit Maharaj asks some follow-up question on this subject matter in verse 22, like how is Dharana accomplished, what is a bona fide Dharnashraya, how to quickly remove the contaminations of minds. So those were some follow-up questions asked by him. So further, like Sukdev Goswami Maharaj answers that question. So the first question answer is there in the verse 23 of this same chapter, and then the second question answer is there in verse 24 to 25. So where he talks about Virat Roop of the Lord. So this is for appropriate for neophyte yogis. And then further he also talks about like Paramatma in chapter 2.2.12 for, and that is appropriate more for advanced yogi. And like this, and then the question 3, how to remove contamination of mind, is answered through, like the answer is process of dharana. And so dharana destroys the contamination of the mind, which is bewildered by this material modes of nature, like rajas mode of passion and tamas mode of ignorance. So the yogi who sees the Lord through such dharana can quickly achieve his desired goal of liberation. So this was the overall summary of this chapter. So now we will further read the last 5 verses of this chapter, starting from verse 35 to verse 39. And so beginning the verse 35 to 37 are describing further the Virat Swarupa of the Lord. So in the previous verses also we have seen the Virat Swarupa of the Lord in the classes given by Naveen Krishna Prabhu, Roshan Prabhu in before sessions. So would not go in those details here. And last 2 verses, 38 to 39, are the concluding verses that inspires one to concentrate one's mind on this Virat form of the Lord to get quickly, remove the contaminations of mind. So yeah, we will recite this verse first, text 35. Vijnana Shakti Mahim Amananti
Vijnana Shakti Mahimānanti
Sarvatmanonata Karanam Giritram
Sarvamanonata Karanam
Ashvasvatra Ustra Gajanakhani
Ashvasvatra Gajanakhani
Sarve Mriga Pashvashro Nidese
Sarve Mriga Pashvashro Nidese
Vijnana Shakti, consciousness. Mahim, the principle of matter. Amananti, they call it so. Sarvam Atmanaha, of the omnipresent. Antaha Karanam, ego. Giritram, Rudra, Shiva. Ashwa, horse. Ashwatri, mule. Ustra, camel. Gajaha, elephant. Nakhani, nails. Sarve, all other. Mrigaha, stags. Pashaha, quadrupeds. Shroni, they say, on the region of the belt. So, one of you can read translation.
The principle of matter, Mahatattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as asserted by the expert. And Rudradev is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his nails, and wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the body.
Yeah, so here there is mention of Mahat Tattva. Mahat means supreme and Tattva means sum total. So Mahat Tattva is the germination place of the creation. We all have come into existence through that Tattva. And because Supreme Lord has sowed the seeds of the universe manifestation out of his own body, and which is influenced by the interaction of the internal time, and that manifests eventually. So this principle is more explained in detail in the further canto, in Canto 3, chapter 5, verse 27. We will not go much into detail, but just wanted to give an overview of this tattva. And then there is mention about horse, mule, camel, elephant. So we can see like every living entity is consisted within the universal form of the Lord. So now when we see, I hope that we get reminded, if camel, horse, we can get reminded of the Lord. And I think this is a nice way, through universal form of the Lord, we will be able to see Krishna, we will be able to see Lord in every living entity, because almost all the jivas are mentioned in his Virat Roop. Okay, so we will further go into text 36. Vayamsi tad vyakaranam vichitram manurmanisa manujo nivasa Gandharva vidyadhara charnapsara Swara smriti rashuranika virya Vayamsi, varieties of bird, Tat Vyakaranam, vocables, Vichitram, artistic, Manu, the father of mankind, Manisa, thoughts, Manuja, mankind, the sons of Manu, Nivasa, residence, Gandharva, the human being named Gandharvas, Vidyadhara, the Vidyadharas, Charana, the Charanas, Aspara, the angels, Apsara, the angels, Swara, the musical rhythm, Smriti, remembrance, Asura, Anika, the demoniac soldiers, Vidyaha, prowess. Yeah, one of you can read translation again.
Varieties of birds are indications of his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are representations of his wonderful prowess.
Purport. Thank you, Radhika Mataji. The aesthetic sense of the Lord is manifestation in the artistic, colorful creations of varieties of birds like peacock, parrot, cuckoo. So all these birds are so beautiful, right? Like we can only imagine, like if this birds, the creation is itself is so beautiful, how beautiful the creator will be. So the celestial species of human beings, further like Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, can sing wonderfully and can entice even the minds of the heavenly demigods. Their musical rhythm represents the musical sense of the Lord. And how then can he be impersonal? So he has got so many personal features, like through Virat Swarupa we saw, like God is personal. Like after knowing about Virat Swarupa, I think one cannot like go back to impersonal. One has to believe in the personal feature of the Lord. Impersonal is the Mayavadi philosophy. His musical taste, artistic sense, and standard intelligence, which is never fallible, are different signs of his supreme personality. The Manu Samhita is the standard law book for humanity, and every human being is advised to follow this great book of social knowledge. Human society is the residential quarters of the Lord. So here it is mentioned residential quarters of the Lord, because in each one of us, God resides within us as a super soul, Paramatma. So we are all the residential quarters of the Lord. This means that the human being is meant for God realization and association with God. So this life is a chance for the conditioned soul to regain his eternal God consciousness and thus fulfill the mission of life. So even in Bhagavatam, like it is mentioned, right? Savai pumso paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje apratihata ahetuke yayatma suprasiddhati. So the goal of the human life is to just engage ourselves in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So that is what mentioned here also. Maharaj Prahlad is the right type of representative of the Lord in the family of Asuras. So we know about Prahlad Maharaj, like he has gone through, so he did not have favorable environment for bhakti at all. Like he was so much trouble, tormented by his own father, and like he had undergone so much like adversities, like he was thrown on the piles of the snakes and he was taken into fire, and so many adversities like he have faced, and still like he continued to do his bhakti. So for doing bhakti doesn't matter. We don't have to wait for situation to get favorable. We can do bhakti at any stage of life, in any situation. So that is never an excuse that we don't have favorable situation to do bhakti. Everyone have this opportunity to do that, and we have examples of such devotees in our sastras like Prahlad Maharaj. So none of the living being is away from the Lord's gigantic body. Each and every one has a particular duty in relation to the supreme body. So we saw that our duty is to engage in the loving devotional service. Similarly, everything has got its own duty. Sun has got duty to rise every day. And similarly, like every living entity, every object, every creation that we find in this material world has a duty, and that has to be performed. Because further it tells that if what happens if we don't perform this duty, disruption in the matter of the discharging the specific duty assigned to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony. So it will cause disharmony between one living being and another. So, but when the relation is re-established in relation with the Supreme Lord, there is complete unity between all living beings. Even up to the limit of the wild animals and human society. Here there is example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is God himself. He displayed this living unity in the jungle of Madhya Pradesh, where even the tigers, elephants, and many other ferocious animals perfectly cooperated in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Now we are not like that empowered. We are not God. He was God, so he was able to do. But at least in our best capacity, like those who are in animal consciousness, even human beings which are in animal consciousness, at least we can invite them to such satsangs, and we can give them the seed of bhakti. We can give them prasadam. We can give them the holy name of the God. We can at least help them to come out of the animal consciousness by doing such activities. And this is the way to peace and amity all over the world. And bhakti is not limited only to the human form of life. We have example of Gajendra, who was animal and still he was blessed with God's mercy. So God is very merciful on all his living entities, not just human beings. All have equal opportunities to progress in bhakti. So further we can go into text 37. Brahmanam Shatrabhujo Mahatma Vidurur Angri Shrita Krishna Varna Nana Bhida Bijya Ganopapanno Dravyatmaka karma vitana yoga. Brahma, the Brahmanas, Ananam, the face, Shatra, the Kshatriyas, Bhuja, the arms, Mahatma, the Virat Purush, with the Vaishyas, Uru, the thighs, Angri Shrita, under the protection of his feet, Krishna Varnaha, the Sudras, Nanaha Vedyas, Abhida by names, Abhijagyana, the demigods, Upapannaha being overtaken, Dravya Atmakaha with visible goods, Karma activities, Vitana Yoga, the performance of sacrifice. May someone please read translation.
The Virat Purusha's face is the Brahmanas, his arms are the Kshatriyas, his thighs are the Vaishyas, and Shudras are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifices with feasible goods to appease the Lord.
Thank you, Lanka Prabhu. Purport: monotheism is practically suggested here. So monotheism is like idea of only one God. That's what we also believe. That only we have only Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned, right? Krishna stu Swayam Bhagwan. So he is the original personality of Godhead. And also Krishna, like he boldly describes in Bhagavad Gita, right? Sarva dharma parityajya, abandon all kinds of religion and just surrender unto me. So yeah, we have to practice monotheism, and there is only one God, Sri Krishna. Offering sacrifices to many demigods under different names is mentioned in the Vedic literature, but the suggestion made in this verse is that all those varieties of demigods are included in the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are only the parts and parcel of the original whole. So yes, it is described in Vedic literature about this all varieties of demigod worship. But like in Bhagavad Gita, boldly Krishna says that, like, yes, those who worship other gods are also like willful faith are worshipping in him, but they are worshipping in wrong way. So we should be engaged in the direct worship of the Lord. That is more beneficial. So similarly, the divisions of the orders of human society, namely the Brahmanas, the intelligent class, the Kshatriyas, the administrators, Vaishyas, the mercantile community, and the Shudras, the laborer class, are all included in the body of the Supreme. So all these classes mentioned here have different duties. So we saw in the last verses that, and further here also, it will be mentioned like what is the duty of the particular class. So as such, sacrifice by every one of them in terms of pleasing the Supreme by feasible goods is recommended. Generally, the sacrifice is offered with clarified butter and grains. But with the progress of time, human society has produced varieties of goods by transforming material supplied by God's material nature. Human society therefore must learn to offer sacrifices not only with clarified butter but also with manufactured goods in propagating the Lord's glory, and that will bring about perfection in human society. So it is good that if we have all this resources available, we can offer sacrifices using those available resources. But for this day and age, Kali Yuga, the most beneficial sacrifice that one can offer is by chanting the holy names of the God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is the sacrifice we need to all perform in this Kali Yuga. The intelligent class of men or Brahmanas may give direction for such sacrifices in consultation with the previous acharyas. The administrators may give all the facilities to perform such sacrifice, and the Vaishya class or mercantile community who produce such goods may offer them for sacrifice, and the Shudra class may offer their manual labor the full termination of such sacrifice. So thus, like by cooperating in this way among the different classes of human beings, the sacrifice recommended. So here it is mentioned like sacrifice recommended in this age, namely the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, and that may be executed for common welfare of all the people of the world. because only through sacrifice, because if we perform sacrifice, then we will have enough rain will have enough grains, there will be, so with this we can even solve the economic problems of the world, like hunger, like we have to perform this sacrifice. If this sacrifices will stop, then we are going to have this problem. We are already seeing that we are having this problem because to some extent we are not doing our duty properly. So we should all do our duty as mentioned again and again in the purport. That is the only way to bring harmony. So further we can read about text 38. Yanasav Ishvara Vigrahasya Yashani Vesha Kathito Mayate Sandaryatesmin Vapusistavishte Manah Swabuddhya Nayatuste Kinchit. Iyan, all this, so that Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Vigrahasya of the form, Yaha, whatsoever, Sanivesha, as they are located, Kanthita, explain, Maya, by me, Te, unto you, Sadaryate, one may concentrate, Asmin, in this, Vapusi, form of Virat, Saviste, in the gross, Manaha, mind, Swabuddhya, by one's intelligence, Na, not, Yataha, beyond him, Asti, there is Kinchit, anything else. May one of you please read translation.
I have explained thus to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there is nothing more than this in the material world.
Thank you, Puji. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.10, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has verily explained that the material nature is only an order-carrying agent of His. So this material nature is the servant of God. She is one of the different potencies of the Lord. So there are different potencies like internal energy potency of the Lord, external energy potency, and marginal potency of the Lord. We as soul living entities, we fall under the marginal potency of the Lord, and this material world is the external potency of the Lord. And she acts under his direction because, as mentioned earlier, that she is the order carrying agent, she is the servant of the Lord. So as the Supreme Transcendental Lord, he simply casts a glance over the material principle, and thus the agitation of matter begins, and the resultant actions are manifested one after another by 6 kinds of gradual differentiations, and all material creation is moving in that way, and thus it appears and disappears in due course. So we can see material creation is temporary because it comes and disappears again and again. So what intelligent person will do? No? We have to find a permanent solution. Like we want to all not be part of again and again coming back, rotating the cycle of birth, age old disease. We want to get over this miseries of the material world. So the only way we can get out of this material world is engaging ourselves in the devotional service of the Lord. So less intelligent persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot accommodate the thoughts of this inconceivable potency of the Lord Sri Krishna, by which he appears just like a human being. So in Bhagavad Gita 9.11, Lord says, right, the fools cannot derive me, they cannot derive my supreme form and understand my supremacy when he is in human form. So his appearance in the material world as one of us is also his causeless mercy upon the fallen souls. He is transcendental to all material conception, but by his unbounded mercy upon his pure devotees, he comes down and manifests himself as the personality of Godhead. So God manifests in this material world for various reasons. So one of the reason here is mentioned, that to shower a causeless mercy on his devotees. Other reason, like there are other reasons mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Whenever there is a rise in irreligion and decline in religious activities, he will manifest himself here. Also, like same paritranam sadhunam vinashaya taddiskritam. So for protection of his pure devotees and for destroying the evil from this world, he also manifests for that reason. So and he also says that this is possible to establish the religion. So again and again, for that purpose, he will manifest himself on this material world. So for the materialistic philosophers and scientists are too much engrossed with atomic energy and the gigantic situation of the universal form, and they offer respect more seriously to the external phenomenal feature of the material manifestations than to the noumenal principle of spiritual existence. The transcendental form of the Lord is beyond the jurisdiction of such materialistic activities, and it is very difficult to conceive that the Lord can be simultaneously localized and all-pervasive, because the materialistic philosophers and scientists think of everything in terms of their own experience, because they are unable to accept the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. But still, Lord is so kind enough to demonstrate the Virat feature of his transcendental form. And herein, Srila Sukadeva Goswami has vividly described this form of the Lord. So, the Virat Rupa is the personal feature of the Lord, and he has shown this Virat Swarup to his devotee Arjuna also. So, this is the way, like, we have to meditate on this form. And because scientists, philosophers who do not believe in this principle, like, they think like everything, like whatever they are experimenting, like they are doing out of their own intelligence, but it is not right. Like, without the Creator giving us the intelligence, that all is not possible. So we have to surrender to the Lord. He concludes that there is nothing beyond this gigantic feature of the Lord. None of the materialistic thoughtful man can go beyond this conception of the gigantic form. In this gigantic form, everything is included. There is nothing left out. Any single object that we see in this material world is the part of the universal form of the Lord. So the minds of the materialistic man are flickering and constantly changing from one aspect to another. And that is so very true. Like Radhika Kishori Mataji had sent me acronym of mind. So mind is which magnify, M from mind is magnify, imagines I, N neglects and denies, D. So mind always like makes problems appear bigger or magnifies, imagines problems, imagines enjoyment. It causes you to reflect what is neglect what is good for you, and mind always denies reality. So we can see like how mind play games with us, but we have to tell mind that I think I heard in some class also, we have to tell mind that not about the problem, like but how big our Krishna is, not how big our problem is. So that we can see like how fickle our mind is. So the only process by which we can control this mind is again engaging through this devotional activities. Like 9 processes of devotional bhakti are described, like Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padsevanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So through all these activities, we can control and engage our mind in such material devotional activities and come out of this fickleness of the mind. And also by process of concentrating on the different bodily parts of the Lord, will also gradually diminish the demoniac challenge of godlessness and bring about gradual development of devotional service to the Lord. So this is our way out to get out of the fickleness of the mind. So everything is the part and parcel of the complete whole, and the neophyte student will gradually realize the hymns of Isopnishad, which states that Supreme Lord is everywhere, and thus he will learn the art of not committing any offense to the body of the Lord, because everything that we see is part and parcel of Lord. And God is pervading everywhere. It is described in Bhagavad Gita also in the verse, like his ears are everywhere, his eyes are everywhere, his face is everywhere. So Lord is all pervading. And this sense of God-mindedness will diminish eventually one's pride in challenging the existence of the God. And thus, this is the way one can learn to show respect to everything, for all the things are parts and parcel of the Lord. So, this is the last verse 39. Sa sarva divriti anubhuta sarva Atma yatha swapna jane kashisteka Tam satyam ananda nidhim bhajeta Nanyatra sajat yata atma patah Saha, he, the Supreme Person, Sarvadhivritti, the process of realization by all sorts of intelligence, Anubhuta, cognizant, Sarve, everyone, Atma, the super soul, Yatha, as much as, Swapna Gyan, a person dreaming, Ikshita, seen by, Ekaha, one and the same, Tam, unto him, Satyam, the supreme truth, Anandanidhim, the ocean of bliss, Bhajeta, must one worship, Na, never, Anyatra, anything else, Sajjat, be attached, Yathaha, whereby, Atma Pataha, degradation of oneself. May one of you please read translation.
One should concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distributes himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary persons create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation.
Here is again the answer given to remove the contamination of the mind. So we will see the purport, we'll read that. In this verse, the process of devotional service is indicated by the great Goswami Srila Sukadev. He tries to impress upon us that instead of diverting our attention to several branches of self-realization, we should concentrate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the supreme object of realization, worship, and devotion. Self-realization is it we're offering a fight for eternal life against the material struggle of existence, and therefore, by the illusory grace of the external energy, yogi or devotee is faced with many allurements which can entangle a great fighter again in the bondage of material existence. Yogi can attain miraculous successes and material achievements such as anima and laghima, by which one can become more minute than the minutest or lighter than the lightest. Or in this ordinary sense, one may achieve material benedictions in the shape of wealth and women. What is the use of getting such benediction also? Like, it is just going to be so temporary, not providing you any eternal benefits. So better like we ask for spiritual strength and just try to advance in this path of bhakti. But one is warned against such allurements because entanglement again is such illusory pleasure, means degradation of the self, further imprisonment in the material world. So this warning one should follow, that one's vigilant intelligence only. The Supreme Lord is one and his expansions are various. So there are various expansions of the Lord like Shaktavesh avatar, Purush avatar, and various such avatar. But like, even though he has this avatars, but he is only one. So he is therefore the super soul of everything. So when a man sees anything, he must know that his seeing is secondary and Lord seeing is primary. So anything we see in this world, it is already been seen by the Supreme Lord. And then secondary we are seeing now. So one cannot see anything without the Lord's having first seen it. So that is the instruction of the Vedas and Upanishad. So whatever we see, whatever we do, the super soul of all acts of seeing or doing is the Lord. This theory of simultaneous oneness and difference between the individual soul and super soul is propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. So just like, spark of the fire and fire, like both are different, like they are constitutionally they are same, but like the magnitude is different, right? So it's the same like difference between soul and super soul, even though we might have some features of the super soul, but that doesn't mean like but still we are different. We are just the living entities, servant of the Lord. And similarly, like sun, we can understand by the example of sun. So to understand the philosophy of this Bheda Bhed, like a ray of the sun and sun himself, like it is a difference between both. So yeah, that is the concept of Bheda Bhed. The Virat Roop, or the gigantic feature of the Supreme Lord, includes everything materially manifested, and therefore the Virat or gigantic feature of the Lord is the super soul of all living and non-living entities. But the Virat Rupa is also the manifestation of Narayan or Vishnu. And going further on and on, one will eventually see that Lord Krishna is the ultimate super soul of everything. So the conclusion is that one should unhesitantly become a worshipper of Lord Krishna. Even in Bhagavad Gita, God says that manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So just like, engage your mind in me, worship me, and become my devotee. Even God wants that. So yeah, we should devote ourselves in his service. His plenary expansion, Narayan and none else. In the Vedic hymns, it is clearly said that first of all, Narayan cast a glance over matter, and thus there was creation. So this is how the creation came into existence. It was first glanced by the Supreme Lord, and that's how this creation came into existence. So before creation, there was neither Brahma nor Shiva, what to speak of others. There was no one. Sripad Sankaracharya also has definitely accepted this. And Narayan is beyond the material creation, and that all others are within the material creation. Yeah, so even though God has created this, but he is not influenced by all these modes of material nature. But in fact, the contrary, all these material modes of nature are within him. So this material creation is within him, even though he is everything, but still he is independent. So the whole material creation, therefore, is one with and different from Narayan simultaneously, and this supports the Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva philosophy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So being an emanation from the glancing potency of Narayan, the whole material creation is non-different from him, but because it is the effect of his external energy, Bahirang Maya, and aloof from the internal potency, Atma Maya, the whole material creation is different from him at the same time. So the example given in this verse very, very nicely is that of the dreaming man. So when the dreaming man creates many things in his dream, he himself becomes entangled, seer of the dream, and affected by the consequences. And the material creation is also exactly same, like a dream-like creation of the Lord. So he, being transcendental super soul, is neither entangled nor affected by such reaction of a dream-like creation. So he is always in his transcendental position, but essentially he is everything and nothing is apart from him. As a part of this, one should therefore concentrate only on him and without any deviation. Satatam Kirtanam, like we should constantly engage in his devotion. So otherwise one is sure to be overcome by the potencies of the material creation one after the another. And it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.7, Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakritim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshayi Punastani Kalpadau Vishraji Aham. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. So this human form of life is an opportunity for all of us to get out of this repeated creation and annihilation, and it is by means where one may escape the Lord's external potency and enter into his internal potency. So would just like to quote this verse which says about the same, how we can get out of this material potency. Kali kale nama rupe Krishna avatar, nam haite haya sarva jagat nishtar. So in this age of Kali, only the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and simply by chanting the holy name, one can associate with Lord, and directly anyone who does this is certainly liberated and delivered. So thus ends this Bhaktivedanta purport of the second canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, titled The First Step in God Realization. Hare Krishna. Thank you to all devotees for tolerating me. I'm not an expert of Srimad Bhagavatam, so if anybody have any questions, can still ask questions. So we have experts here who can answer, so we can take questions.
But what if the experts have the question? Any questions?
Any realizations from today's verses?
So I had a couple of thoughts, questions. So the first one is, you mentioned that if somebody comes to know the Virat Rupa, there is no question of impersonalism, right? But isn't the Virat Rupa form itself is an imagination? So it's also mentioned by acharyas and also in scripture that it's an imaginary form that Krishna just displayed to show his power. And if somebody wants to prove that how impersonalist philosophy is, they can say, yeah, you see, this is what Krishna is saying, that Brahmanas are the face, Vaishya, Shudra, Kshatriya. So this is what Krishna is. The society is Krishna.
Yeah.
Like all these different people, Krishna is showing, see, this is who I am. I am this, I am mountains, I am animals. So this is all me.
Yes.
So then they can prove that, yeah, this is impersonalism. There is no Krishna, but these different entities make Krishna.
Yeah, very good question. I don't know how to answer this, but even we don't consider this. But there are religions actually who worship all this material nature, like mountains, rivers, and stones, and there are communities like that, like who are worshipping. So indirectly they are worshipped in this Virat form. But exactly to answer your question, I think maybe Sri Radhika Kishori Mataji or Prabhuji, like if you can help answer him.
So it is like energy and energetic are one, but they are different. Energy and energetic are one, achintya bheda bhed. So seeing the energy should remind you of the energy should remind you of the energetic. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, of the immovable things I am the Himalayas. So Himalayas, you see, oh, it's the energy of the Lord. Oh, this is coming from the Lord. So you, like in this verse, achintya bheda bhed, simultaneously one but different. So the energy is also Krishna, but not Krishna also. So that's how it is. So all these things are supposed to remind you of Krishna. When you see the material nature and everything, oh, this is Krishna's energy. So like that. Oh, yeah. I am the shark.
So those who
So shark is not Krishna, but shark is a living entity, but coming from Krishna, like that you can say.
something like that.
So those who are saying they should first read Bhagavad Gita and then come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, that He is the creator, source of everything, and then they should come to understanding Virat Rupa and then connect.
In 10th chapter, Krishna says, I am the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhu. And then after that, the universal form chapter comes.
Vyomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasam na pranashyami sa cha me na pranashyati. Whoever sees me everywhere and everything in me is never lost, and neither I am lost to him. Yeah, so we should see Krishna everywhere and everything we should see in Krishna. Like have the relationship of this. Like you're saying that we see the beauty of the flower, we relate it to the creator, how beautiful the creator would be. So everything is meant for us to remember Krishna.
Question.
Not question, just comment. So one thing, Prabhu, like what I've heard in other discourses, this Virat Rupa was shown to multiple people. Like Arjuna saw the Virat Rupa, even Duryodhana saw Virat Rupa, Mother Yashoda saw the Virat Rupa. So many have seen, but not everybody understands in the same way. See, the Duryodhana never took any of that, even though he saw the Virat. He was so lucky to see the Virat Rupa. So it's all also on the realization of the person who is seeing that. As Prabhu was rightly saying, it indicates that one. But you should, by the mercy of the Lord, we should have that intelligence to interpret properly.
Yeah.
If we remain Duryodhana the whole life, we will not gain anything. So that's
Yeah.
Thank
you, yeah.
Said, if you see my spectacle, then you say, oh, this is Prabhupada spectacle. Or the mother sees the socks of the child. Oh, this is my child's socks. There is connection. In the Chatushlaki Bhagavatam, there is a verse. If you see things disconnected from Krishna, then you are seeing an illusion. So if you see something very beautiful or something, and you just see the beauty, but you don't connect it with Krishna, then you are seeing Yatha Bhavsu
Yeah, I just wanted to share one more point. Yesterday, Premvilas Prabhu was mentioning about this. So, recently, you know, that Ram Janmabhoomi, the temple was inaugurated. That was a single temple in one place, right? And can you imagine a person doing 108 temples throughout the world? Today we are sitting here, we are even able to think of the Lord. It's only due to Srila Prabhupada. So how much of this thing we'll have to give praise for Srila Prabhupada for what he has done for all of us. That's what he was mentioning. That was one temple, and this is 108 temples throughout the world. Right? That's a nice observation. Hare Krishna.
So I was thinking that when Arjuna saw the universal form, he was quite in fear and afraid to see the form. So he said, go back to your Sham Sundar form. And I want to meditate. And Prabhupada says the best meditation is to meditate on the Sham Sundar, the two-handed form of Krishna. But one of these verses says one should concentrate on this universal form of God to attain liberation. But easier is to see the beautiful form of Krishna, the two-handed form.
Actually, you answered my question. Remember, I said I have two questions. So the second question was that Krishna said, and even in 8th chapter also, Tasmat Sarva Sutava. He said, meditate your what he does say? Think of me in the form of Krishna. He says in the translation, Prabhupada translates like that. But here, Sukadeva Goswami could have just given the reference to that, okay, even though that is Virat Rupa we saw, but then you focus on Krishna. But he's saying that no, continue to focus on Virat Rupa, only by then your mind will be controlled or cleansed. And
Maybe Prabhu can answer. Why such a verse? Maybe Bhagavatam is catering to all types of people.
Yeah, you were saying that there were Ashtanga yogis were also there.
Yeah,
So many
it's a
different-
wonderful opportunity to preach to them.
Yeah.
Now you can say Ashtanga yogis were there, so now you glorify Ashtanga yoga. But that's not.
Yeah.
Is that?
But he will ultimately come to that.
This is just the beginning. In the beginning, it's okay to say.
We'll say Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. Ultimately Krishna is. Chai.
Okay, any other questions? Naim Prabhu, any in-person questions today? All right, we have some. Let's see on YouTube. Okay, Charuta is saying excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions. So, Granth Srimad
Bhagavatam
Bhagavatam
ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Adi ki jai.
Gaur Prema
Anande Hari Hari Bol.